Hi, welcome everybody. This is Mr. Sheeline again. We're just going to be going through the safety and rules lab, or safety and rules of the lab lecture, and just in case you missed it from our in-class discussion for whatever reason. So let's get right into it. If you don't know where you can find this PowerPoint or Google Slide, this is going to be on your Google Classroom, actually right next to the link for this video. Okay. So let's get into it. So safety and lab rules. Okay, come on. Okay, so safety and lab rules. So as we go through the labs, you're going to notice that throughout the lab and also on certain bottles, on certain materials, you're going to see safety symbols. So please be aware of those safety symbols, and we've got to know some basic safety symbols when you see them. So on the left here, there's a picture of a whole bunch of them. Typically, these are just safety symbols that are pretty straightforward as to what the issue may be and why you should either be cautious or completely avoid whatever material that this is labeled on. Okay, so they appear in laboratory activities on bottles, boxes, or on walls somewhere, and these symbols are designated to and designed to alert you as possible dangers. Okay, so it's more of just reminding you these safety symbols are there. Be careful, whatever they may be, and most of these I'm sure you already know what they are because you've probably seen them before. Okay. So let's use our head when we're in the lab. So please exercise caution and use good judgment, especially if you're conducting experiments at home, because there's going to be a good chunk of activities you're going to be doing at home that I can't really help you or help supervise, or I can't help supervise you. Okay, so I've got to rely on your parents helping you out, or if your parents are home, and which I really don't advise, but if it's simple enough, parents are home, you still got to be careful. You know, it's just like any other practice anywhere else. Just use your head. Please, just always be careful. So follow, and in order to do that, we can follow the instructions that I give you. Instructions I give you on the sheets of paper, on the activity sheets. I'll have a list of things you should watch out for, and also the instructions as to what you should be doing. If you deviate from that, if you leave from those instructions, you might hurt yourself, and it's best not to hurt ourselves in this these sorts of activities. If you don't understand what's going on, reread the instructions, ask for help. Remember, you can book an appointment with me. So if it's like, say, on a Friday, and you're like, man, I don't know what to do here, book an appointment or just email me, send me a text on Remind, whatever it is, and I can try to help you out as best I can. But if you're in class, reread those instructions, raise your hand. Do not hesitate to ask me for help. Notify the teacher and your parents immediately if there's any accident, or unsafe areas. Okay, pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so again, use your head. Read those lab instructions. And what's a really good practice is reading them ahead of time. If you read them before you do anything, then you know, or at least should have some sort of understanding of what to expect in the future. So be careful, read ahead. It's the same thing if you're cooking. If you cook or bake at home, it's the same thing. You read the instructions, you read the recipe before you start it so that you know what to prep, what you don't have to prep, what you can do on the fly, what you should do ahead of time. It's the same thing. Again, reread the instructions and ask for help if you don't understand. There's a reason why I put this for a second time. This is one of the biggest things that students have troubles with is understanding the instructions, and you need to understand those instructions. Because if you don't, it's kind of hard to do a lab. Okay? All right, and then always follow lab procedures exactly. When in school, never do an unauthorized experiment. That's a big guy right there. Don't do something you would, and also don't do something here that you wouldn't do at home as well, and vice versa. Okay? And then when at home, ask your parents before starting an experiment. And if at least tell them, hey, my teacher wants me to do this activity. Here's what it looks like. Is this okay? Okay, because I want your parents to know what you're doing, and I don't want them to all of a sudden see that there's like a fire, and they're like, I never knew that you were going to be working with fire, on this experiment. So please be careful. Ask, tell, even have them supervise. Okay. Eye protection. So in the lab, you're going to be wearing safety goggles for pretty much everything and anything that's a lab activity. Okay, so wear safety goggles and safety glasses when working with any of these materials. Chemicals, flames, heating devices, glass. Uh, that's categorized under heating devices, technically glassware, and also yeah, you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay. And whether you're at home or at school, you must wear eye protection. Okay. Even for the most like silly or easy activities. Okay. You'd be surprised just how many times people think, oh, I don't need to do this. I don't need to wear this, safety material because there's no way I'm going to get hurt. And then usually they get hurt. Okay. Especially when it comes to your eyes, you need to wear eye protection. Okay. It's one of the biggest things that biggest safety concerns in the lab is making sure that you can go home still being able to see everything. Okay. And for those of you that wear glasses, normal glasses are not enough. So if you're wearing glasses and if you're able to pretty much touch the sides of your eyes, um, just by putting your fingers on the sides of your eyes, that's not good enough. There are safety glasses that you either put over your normal glasses or goggles where you can't touch the side of your eyes because normal glasses allow debris and other chemicals and things to get behind your glasses and can get into your eyes. You need something that completely covers and surrounds your eyes that glasses just can't do. Okay. Now, in the case of an emergency in which a chemical goes into your eyes, use an eye wash station. So I've got 2 eye wash stations. I've got one in the front of the classroom it's a big yellow shower. And then I've got one in the back of my room, which is next to a sink. It's got 2 orange little flaps on it. It's hard to miss. Okay. When you are using these, you need to flush out your eyes for about 15 minutes and you have to try not to rub them. If something gets in your eyes, it's going to be super duper hard not to rub them, but it's all part of the practice. You cannot rub your eyes, and you've got to let me know. Okay. So again, wash them out. 15 minutes. Let me know. Okay. Proper lab attire. So obviously, ladies and any guys with long hair, keep all hair tied back. We need to keep our hair out of things. We need to have proper attire. Okay. Don't wear loose clothing. That's obvious. We don't want to get any nasty liquids on it. We don't want to get any fire caught on it. Okay. And even if we're working with Kool-Aid and water, you must wear closed-toed shoes. This is a big one. I don't want Crocs and I don't want Birkenstocks. Your feet have to be completely closed. Okay. Even if it is, say, working with something like Kool-Aid, you need to be prepared for anything that can go wrong. And one of those things is spilling stuff on your feet. And that's not cool because in the case of, say, the Kool-Aid lab, we do work with glassware. Well, what happens if you accidentally hit a beaker on the side of the table and now you've got shards of glass coming towards your toes and you're wearing Crocs or you're wearing flip-flops? You can probably say goodbye to a toe or two, or at least you're going to get cut up really bad. And I don't want that to happen in the class. Okay, so we've got to wear closed-toed shoes on lab days. We've got to keep our hair tied back. We need to keep super duper baggy clothing away from our lab station. Okay. Hand and skin safety. Wash your hands after every lab. This is going to be pretty easy, I would think, because we got to wash our hands every time we leave a classroom and come into a classroom for the most part. So this is just going to be a practice, extended past just normal everyday procedures. Handle glassware, sharp tools, heated containers carefully with proper tools. There's some videos that you guys are going to watch or you already have watched, depending on when you're listening to this. There are videos you should watch and some demos. You'll see that where people are using proper materials in order to pick things up. In the picture that's in this slide right here, there's this lady who's holding up a test tube with some tongs. This is good practice because it's possible that she just heated that up, and you really don't want to touch hot glass. If you are working with other hot materials and you have to pick it up with your hand because there are no tongs, there are gloves that you can use. Okay. There's all kinds of protective wear that you can use in order to pick up heated materials, glass materials, and in order to stay as safe as possible. Now, let's say if something does spill on your hand, you've got to let me know. Again, even if it's, say, Kool-Aid, you got to let me just say, hey, Mr. Sheeline, I spilled some Kool-Aid. I'm going to go wash it off. It's as easy as that. Go rinse it off. If it's Kool-Aid, go rinse it off, wash your hands, get back to the lab, and continue. If it's something a little worse than that, I know the procedures on how to best wash your hand up. You need to let me know, and then we're going to go through the steps as to what will happen next. Okay. Typically, most materials we use in here, the best thing you can do is just rinsing your hand under room temperature, cool-ish water, not cold water, and definitely not hot water, for about 15 minutes. All right, sharp objects. So when using knives, scissors, always cut away from fingers in the body, and always carry sharp objects with points and tips facing down and away. This is something we should know by now. You obviously don't run with scissors. If you have to use some sort of sharp object like a knife, which as of right now, I don't have anything like that, but if we're ready for you guys. But in the case that would be a lab you would do, and especially even at home, this is something you should really do. You don't want to trip and then puncture yourself, by hitting the countertop or whatever, and, poke out an eye or hit your neck or whatever it is. Part of the lab, remember, is always just staying safe all the time. It's great to go to a lab and then go home with all your digits and all your ability to see intact. Okay. Here's a really good one that's hard to get past, but never try to catch falling sharp instruments. So if you drop a knife, if there's a broken glass beaker, and it starts to fall, the best thing you can do is to not so much jump out of the way, but just try to avoid that from hitting you. And that includes not trying to catch it, okay? Better for it to fall on the ground and shatter for me to pick up than you trying to catch it and then stab yourself in the hand, okay? Just let it fall, move your feet, don't jump or run out of the way, because remember, we're still in the lab. Use your head. And then grasp sharp instruments only by the handles. This is pretty self-explanatory. Don't grab it by the blade. That's silly. That's redundant. You don't need to do that, and useless, okay? If you do cut yourself, make sure you let me know. If you cut yourself at home, you got to let your parents know. Patch yourself up, clean it off, then patch it up, and then try to be more careful next time. If it is in the lab, you got to let me know. And if you break any glass, you've got to let me pick that up, okay? Any glass that breaks, I'm the one who has to pick it up. So do not clean up broken beakers, test tubes, any kind of glassware. I'm the one who picks that up, because the school is not insured for you getting hurt like that, okay? So that's my job. I'm the one that gets to clean that up, not you, okay? So you do not clean up sharp object debris. I get to clean that up. Broken glass with sharp objects do not go in trash cans, by the way, as well. Okay, so meaning if you decide to break that rule, if you don't tell me that you broke something and you decide to throw it away yourself anyway, which you should not do, you need to let me know. But if you do decide that I'm just going to throw this away again, which I do not advise, I do not want you to do. But if you do choose to do that, there is a designated broken glassware container. That's in the back on my countertop. It's a white box with green labeling. It's pretty much stands out. You'll notice it. But that's where you throw it away, because that's where I throw it away. Again, I don't want you to touch that broken glass. I'm the one who picks it up. Okay. All right, electrical safety. So only electrical plugs are to be placed in electrical outlets. This is very much like what you do at home. Only electrical outlets, only electrical plugs go in electrical outlets. Don't stick forks, don't stick scissors, whatever it is. That's silly, that's dangerous, and you will hurt yourself, okay? Also, unplug electrical equipment after use, and also unplug by pulling the plug from the base, not the cord, okay? This, again, normal practice you should be doing at home anyway, and if you're at home, you should be doing when you're at home and not here. Okay, you pull it from the base, not from the end of the cord. Okay, that's dangerous. You're probably going to mess up the outlet, and you're probably going to mess up the prongs on your plug, which is a lose-lose situation in my book. Okay. And then keep all electrical cords, wires, and appliances away from water. Again, super, super, super duper duh kind of moment. Now, the ones that we have here, for those of you wondering, because you're like, hey, why are there sinks next to these outlets? So these are GCFI outlets. So meaning if there were to be any water that gets anywhere near these, they pretty much all shut off at the same time. Okay, so there's no risk of any kind of electrocution, that kind of thing. So you're safe here. I can't speak to when you're at home. Okay, so if you're doing something at home, again, use the best practices that you should be already doing. Be super aware and careful of where the water is in relationship to your electrical outlets, cords, wires, anything like that. Okay, easy peasy. Okay, physical safety. So handle all equipment carefully and be aware of your surroundings at all times. Okay, super duper easy, super duper common. You should know this already. Do not place a cord where someone can trip over it, or catch it on themselves. Now, this is going to be especially true right now that we've all got Chromebooks. You've got to be cognizant of where you're plugging things in and how people can trip on them. Okay, so even if we're not in the lab, don't be a jabroni. Don't keep cords in a place in a way that someone could easily trip over them. Because if someone's like locked in to go turn something in at the front and you've got your cord strung out clothesline-like across the room, that's not cool if someone trips over it, because A, it's probably going to ruin your cord. B, it's probably going to ruin your Chromebook. C, and most importantly, you're probably going to hurt the person who's tripping over it. Okay? So please be aware of where you're plugging things in and where those cords are going. Okay, keep books, backpacks, and other objects picked up and out of walkways and aisles. Again, super duper easy, especially now that you've got all this room to spread out on these tables in my classroom. There really shouldn't be an excuse to have backpacks in aisles. You can easily put backpacks underneath your tables, okay? And then do not pile papers and binders on tables when working at labs. You'll have a lab worksheet or packet, but I don't want your English, algebra, and whatever other papers and worksheets and notebooks that you have from other classes stacked on my tables while you're doing a lab activity. Okay, that's not cool. And then also it's dangerous. Be careful. Keep those away. And plus, do you really want to spill something all over that stuff, especially if there's homework and notes in there? I don't think you probably do, because that means you have to redo everything, grab more worksheets, which is more work for you and more work for whoever you have to grab that from. Okay, so this is my big rule. Absolutely no horseplay or goofing around, general mischief. Okay, none. I do not tolerate horseplay in my lab. Okay, I don't. Now, jokes are one thing. If you want to tell a knock-knock joke to your friend, that's fine, okay? So long as your friend obviously acts appropriately, and as long as that knock-knock joke isn't like doing anything that could potentially cause physical harm, okay? But I do not tolerate horseplay. That means no running. That means no jogging. It means no to anything that you wouldn't otherwise do in a place like a lab. We walk from lab station to lab station. We keep our hands to ourselves, okay? We sit in our seats when we are sitting. We do not rock them. We do not go up and rock other people's chairs. We act appropriately. We act like we're adults, and we stay safe within a lab, okay? As an example, I gave a kid a 0 on a lab while I was working at another school, because he decided during a frog dissection lab that it would be funny to pick up a frog, to run over to his friend's table, and to stick the frog 2 inches from the kid's face and then scream at the top of his lungs. I do not tolerate this. That is horseplay. That was horseplay. And I do not want you guys to do that in my lab. So stay safe. No horseplay. If you do pose a threat, okay, not to just you, but also those around you, if you decide to waste my lab materials, okay, meaning that you're using more than you should, knowingly using more than you should, because you think it might be funny, okay? And or any other misuse of my lab tools, you'll be separated from the lab and you'll receive a 0 on that lab, okay? Labs are typically quite a bit of work and have a good chunk of points in them. On top of that, labs are worth 10% of your grade. So let's say we only have 2 labs in 1 quarter and you get 2 zeros in 1 quarter. That's 10% taken off your grade immediately. So if you had 100%, that takes you down to a 90. If you had a 70%, that takes you down to a 60. Okay? So don't do anything that you wouldn't do in a lab. Don't do anything that you wouldn't do, I would say, in most situations. Don't goof around. Okay? Stay safe. Okay, heat, fire safety. Already kind of touched on these. Tie back any loose hair, loose clothing when working with open flames. Never look into a container as you are heating it, because sometimes there are some chemicals that get pretty volatile when they're heated up, and it will splash you in the face. Okay? As a good example, if you've ever had to heat up enchilada sauce or tomato paste, anyone who's done that will know exactly what I'm talking about. That stuff bubbles. Okay? If you don't believe me, go home, go grab some Prego, heat it up moderately, and you'll notice, wow, there's a lot of tomato sauce that splashes everywhere. Okay, that's not cool. Or even if you fried up bacon, do you want to look directly into a pan closely, okay, and get bacon grease on your eyes? No, so don't do it here. Okay. Never point the end of a test tube being heated at yourself or others. Pretty much just a expansion on the second point. And then finally, never heat a closed container. Again, self-explanatory. We should all know this. So heat and fire safety, again, never leave a heat source unattended. Heated metal and glass looks cool, but you must use tongs or gloves to handle it, or else obviously you're going to burn yourself, which is not cool. Do not place hot glassware directly on lab desk or in cold water. As you can see from this little gift down here from Slow Mo Bros, this is why. That's a superheated Pyrex glass, and what they're doing there is that they're squirting a little bit of cold water into that Pyrex, a superheated Pyrex, and that's what happens. It explodes, okay? And I don't want any kind of glassware explosions in my lab, okay? Especially if someone next to you decides that for this 1 second while this glassware is exploding, that they decided to take off their goggles to scratch their eye and now they've got glass in their eye. Okay, so do not place hot glassware on the cold countertops or in cold water. That's a bad situation. General chemical safety. Read all the labels twice before removing a chemical from the container. Now, typically that's going to be my job more than it is yours, but it is generally speaking, this is something to be caution of even at home with even say like cleaning supplies. You want to read the label, you want to know what the directions are and see if there's anything that's super harmful to you before you use it. Same idea. Only use the type and amount of chemical instructed to use. Never touch, taste, or smell chemicals unless instructed by the teacher. Okay. And in pretty much 99% of the time, you should not be tasting or really, directly smelling. You can obviously waft. Some of you should already know what wafting is. If not, there's a video we're going to watch that shows that, and I'll probably do a demo of what that means later on. And then never mix any chemicals unless instructed to do so. Again, even if it's as silly as, say, Kool-Aid, and like, I don't know, Kool-Aid and just something that I didn't already provide for you, don't do it, okay? It's best to keep good lab practices in check, okay? Because all it takes is that one time for you to think, oh, well, I did this other time, I'm going to do this now, and the next thing you know, you've got yourself hurt. You've now hurt yourself in whatever kind of way in my lab or any other lab for that matter. So just be careful. Transfer chemicals safely and carefully, obviously. Keep lids on chemical containers when not in use. When diluting an acid, pour the acid into water. Okay. This is a good one, though. Again, in most cases, probably you're not going to be doing this in my lab, but just a really, really good practice, especially for you seniors, if you're going to be moving on to a science lab in the future, like say chemistry, a college level chemistry lab. This is something that you need to remember for that. When diluting an acid, pour the acid into water. Okay. So meaning if you've got a little bit of acid and a whole lot of water, that water is pretty much going to consume, it's going to surround that acid and keep you safe than the other way around. If typically there are some acids that are quite volatile with when you add water to them, meaning that they boil, meaning that they can start spurting acid everywhere if you decide to add the water to the acid. So it's always, always, always best to add the acid to the water. Okay. So consider all chemicals dangerous. Again, even Kool-Aid. Handle all chemicals in a well-ventilated area. I've got a fume hood in here if we ever need to use it, which it's possible that we do. We'll see how this year goes. But I do have a fume hood that we'll be able to use. If you're working at home, obviously, if you're working with any kind of material that may smell, may have fumes coming out of it being produced, you should be in a place that has, it's well ventilated, meaning you've got a fan going, there's a window open, that you're not enclosed in a room that doesn't have any air leaving it. Okay. So the big no-nos, again, some of these are going to be a repeat, some of them not, but the super big no-nos, do not enter my prep room. The prep room has already 2 red signs on it that tells you pretty much don't go in there. There's also a little bit of red tape on the floor that should also signify like, hey, you probably shouldn't be here. Okay, so do not go into my prep room. Okay, that's not where students go. That's not where they belong. You do not get to go back there. Okay. Also, do not take any chemicals from my lab. That's stealing. And then 2, that's super dangerous because for the most part, you probably don't know what any of these chemicals do, and you're probably going to hurt yourself with them. So do not take any chemicals from my lab. Do not touch any equipment, chemicals, or other materials until instructed to do so. So meaning you come into my classroom and it's a lab day and you see there's stuff set up in the back or at your table, and it's like, oh, I really want to get going. I want to touch the stuff. Don't touch the stuff. Leave it alone. Okay. Do not eat or drink in the lab or the classroom. That's just my general rule in this room. You don't get to eat in here. I get to eat in here. You don't. Okay. Do not use lab glassware to eat or drink out of. This is pretty much, again, self-explanatory. And please, if you really want to joke about, oh, I'm going to put water in here and can I drink it? Just know that I'm not going to take those jokes very lightly. Okay, just know that. Oh, that's what I'll say. And then do not joke around, engage in horseplay, roughhouse in my lab area or in any other lab. Because remember, you'll get a 0 and you're going to be kicked out. So just don't do it. Emergency summary real quick. You need to know the locations of fire extinguishers, fire blanket, body shower, eye wash stations, first aid kit. This is something that in my classroom, when you come in here, you will be able to physically see where they're at. Again, for I guess I'll say the eye wash stations because I mentioned that. There's a yellow one in the front of the room near my demo desk, and then there's one in the back of the room with little orange flaps on them. Okay, those are my 2 eye wash stations. Other than that, let's say that those aren't working, you've got all kinds of sinks to use too. Okay. The first aid kit is going to be found in the back of the room. It's in a blue box. The body shower is in the front there it's the yellow shower. The fire blanket is also in the back. It's in a big red case with a little flap on it that you just pop the flap and the fire blanket comes out. And then I only have 1 fire extinguisher in my room, and it's right next to my desk. Okay. It's an ABC fire extinguisher that I get to use. Okay. You don't. And then pretty much stay at your workstation, keep it safe. And then finally maintain a clean work area. That includes, remember, don't keep your binder and your papers and your backpack of all the other stuff that you have on your table while you're doing activity. Follow all directions, report any spills, accidents, or injuries, clean up and put away all equipment at the end of the lab, dispose of waste products according to the instructions. And then this last big reminder, if you are completing labs at home, do not skip safety procedures. Regardless of where you're working, you must keep your safety and others, okay, and others on top of your priority list. Just because you're at home does not mean that you won't burn yourself, that you can't burn yourself, and that things won't shatter in your face or cut you, okay? They're probably going to happen more often at home, okay? So please, you must be careful and be smart about your surroundings, since I can't be there to facilitate your lab area. And always remember to check your surroundings, be in well-ventilated areas, well-lit areas. Make sure that if you're turning around that you're not going to be hitting something and splashing whatever you're mixing onto yourself, or whatever it may be. You might knock over a flame onto a big stack of old newspapers, okay? Know where you're at. Make sure it's a well-suited area to do whatever activity you want to do. And then also know where the closest fire extinguisher is and safety tools are located in your house, okay? These are all things you should be aware of. I do believe that is it. So that is lab safety. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any lingering questions or anything you want to talk about regarding this little lecture, please let me know. Book an appointment with me, email me, text me on Remind, whatever it may be. Let me know what your issue is, and I can hopefully help you out and hopefully I can answer whatever questions you have. So these are the rules. This is how you stay safe in the labs. This is what you should do to stay safe at home. And I hope this is helpful for you guys. So again, if you have any questions, get a hold of me. Thank you. And now I'm going to do a weird close where I'm going to now have to stop my recording. And you get to see it. Come on. All right. Thanks, guys. Again, if you have any questions, get a hold of me.